Hi everyone, today we're going to be learning about John Dewey and what he had to say about experimental learning, as well as how that relates to social constructivism in education. And this is a presentation by myself, Emily Rubin. John Dewey was an academic philosopher, psychologist, and many people knew him for his work towards educational reform, and many of his ideas are used in modern-day education. He was born in 1859 and died around 1952, but many of his work did have a lot of impact in today's education in schools. Some of his background is in 1919, he co-founded the New School for Social Research. This school believes that research should advance economic justice, promote an understanding of change, and train the next generation to influence public debate. So he wants to take what he's learning and what all the students are learning and see how they could express that in the actual society and what changes they can make for social reform or whatever they may be wanting to look at. Dewey was an advocate for social learning, just like social constructivism, so those two ideas are going to relate. Social learning, working with others in a group and learning together, gaining more insight from others, as well as social constructivism, which is basically the same, taking what you learn in a group and other ideas and seeing how that could further your understanding of a topic or an idea. Both of these ideas also say, and what John Dewey mostly focuses on, is experience, and he says that experience is key to learning. This idea is referred to as experiential learning. That's just another word for that. Experiential learning, from John Dewey's point of view, he believed that children are not just passive learners, but they are active and engaged participants in their own learning. They lead their way for their learning, as well as experiencing and experimenting with their own ideas. Through experiences such as interaction with environment and reflection allows learning and understanding to be acquired. So again, through more engaging, this allows understanding. He describes education as not preparation for life, education is life itself. So he believes that we shouldn't be preparing the children for future tests or future experiences. He believes education should be for the now and every day and learning the skills for every day. To further talk about John Dewey's point of view on experiential learning, he also talks about how teachers should be involved in the classroom. First off, his ideas to learning were often called progressive education, which in other words is a view of education with the main focus of learning through exploration, which is all about his main idea of experiential learning. This places him in the category of pragmatism, philosophical approach to education. That just means reality must be experienced, which also is going to relate to social constructivism. For teachers, students and teachers should both be learning in the classroom. Many ideas came from very democratic views. This should be implemented in the classroom through equal voice of all the students and teachers in the experimental experience. In this slide, I've incorporated a quote I found very interesting that John Dewey had said. It goes as, "Give the pupils something to do, not something to learn, and the doing is of such a nature as to demand thinking. Learning naturally results." Again, this is by John Dewey, and to the right is a picture of Dewey himself. We're also going to talk about now John Dewey's 4 principles of education. The second step of Dewey's 4 principles of learning is discussions. After the initial hands-on learning, the first of the 4 principles by John Dewey's experiential learning would be learning by doing. Through experiments, Dewey observed that children learn through actively engaging, so this allows them to be present and not focused on things in the future such as tests or quizzes. An example of actively engaging would be in biology, instead of reading a textbook, which is normally what students may do, the use of an experiment like raising a butterfly and watching the full life cycle. The students may not know what to expect as the outcome, but through observation and reflection, they will be able to learn and understand more about the butterfly's life cycle. The second step of Dewey's 4 principles of learning is discussions. After the initial hands-on learning, students will have an opportunity to reflect and discuss their ideas and observations. This will allow students and children to work through their thought processes, formulate their own ideas, as well as getting new insight and ideas from other students. The ideas of social interaction brought up by John Dewey were later explored more and contrasted in the ideas of social constructivism. The third step is being interactive. So learning should be interactive. If a student were to learn from a book or from the mouth of their teacher, learning would not occur or would not occur as effectively. So the use of discussions and presenting, children are able to get a deeper, more knowledgeable understanding of their experiences, because discussions allow children to see other point of views as well as working on their own thought processes, and again, helps them gain better understanding of the lesson they may have been learning. The 4th principle to Dewey's experiential learning would be interdisciplinary. This idea is that taking many subjects and putting it into one idea to get a better understanding. This also has to do with the idea of continuity, allows children to expand on what they already know and strengthens their understanding. The example of watching a butterfly's life would be calculated in math, written about in an English class, or explored through the arts. Learning one idea in many different aspects of STEM arts allow the students to gain a better understanding of how all the ideas are connected, as well as connected to reality. This can allow for the children's brains to create a stronger mental model and schemas. And schemas are just a general understanding of something or a general idea of how something should go. Now we're going to talk about social constructivism. This idea was created by Lev Vygotsky. Social constructivism focuses on the individual's learning based on their interaction with the group. So just like in John Dewey's experiential learning, through discussions, they're able to work with others to gain better insight of an idea or other ways to look at something. So, just like social constructivism, working with a group allows for a better understanding. Its main focus is also on the use of taking prior knowledge to gain more insight on new experiences. That is what constructivism is all about, is taking prior knowledge to learn more in depth about an idea. This idea relates to John Dewey's interdisciplinary 4th step of the principles, because he took what he knew from one subject or one idea and he related it to other subjects to get a better full understanding of that idea. The next idea of social constructivism is that reality should be experienced, and as we said in the very beginning, John Dewey also believed reality should be experienced, and that's how you gain a better understanding of life and all the skills you need. I also have put in a quote by Lev Vygotsky. Again, don't know if I'm saying that right. The quote goes, "By giving our students practice and talking with others, we give them frames for thinking on their own." And I love this because when you work with others, you are able to work through your thought processes, gain better understanding, maybe have an idea that you heard from another student that you've never heard of before. To go further into relating social constructivism to Dewey, in the 4 Principles to Education created by John Dewey, discussions and debates within groups after experimenting with an idea are important to reflect and understand what was just learned. The use of previous knowledge to expand their understandings was also related, as well as the constructivism idea, like Dewey, says reality is determined by one's experiences. Because the world is always changing, experiments are necessary. Sharing ideas with others is equally as important. On this last slide, I have created my references and my citations. Thank you all for listening, and I hope you got an idea of how John Dewey talks about experiential learning and how that relates to social constructivism.